Lisa Bluter reveals the two biggest challenges of coaching Caitlin Clark. Former Iowa Hawkeyes head coach Lisa Bluter got real about the reality of coaching Caitlin.
Thus, Caitlin Clark's former college coach recently arrived out and stated a few things that have the WNBA world was rocked. Lisa Bluter made the decision to take a seat for this interview and essentially revealed everything about the actual experience coaching the athlete that receives the most attention in basketball for women. She entered the difficulties that no one was even aware of were taking place, or breakhack is made by those moments that nearly caused Clark's whole trajectory, and the precise techniques she used to maintain the largest feeling from having a full mental disintegration. This completely changes the course of events on everything we believed to be true. How do you feel about Lisa Bluter's disclosures regarding Caitlin Clark? Are you shocked by this, or were you already believing that something similar was going on? Please share your opinions below.
Remember that less than 2 years ago, Caitlin Clark was still playing college basketball at the University of Iowa. Given all that Clark has already experienced, hold on, let me make sure my mic is right. Okay, we good. Has already experienced and accomplished in the WNBA since that time. Her iconic college career feels like ages ago, although it's impossible not to think back upon these days fondly when number 22 was setting NCAA records and leading the Hall.
After arriving at consecutive national titles games, Lisa Bluter has maintained a rather modest profile ever since abandoning coaching after Caitlin Clark's last season at Iowa. Additionally, she passed the program to Jan, her longtime helper Jensen, and essentially vanished from the spotlight. Yes, she appears at games occasionally, performs some work doing game calls for the Big Ten Network, but nothing near the attention she received during those Clark years. Those were crazy days, man. Returning at the time, Iowa women's basketball was the most electrifying thing occurring in every sport. Additionally, each one match seemed to have stakes at the championship level.
Then there's the question is, what was the biggest challenge in coaching Caitlin Clark? And the answer, two aspects, really. First, during COVID, there was nobody in the stands. It was hard to build relationships because of the isolation. To get her to become a good leader, it took time because she was so used to doing everything on her own, but she learned it really well. You know, that's something that has been emphasized quite a bit by her and both Jan Jensen. And then the second point says, second, at the end of her career, there was so much noise. All the people that wanted a piece of her, I'm amazed how she handled it. She didn't get a big head. She was still a goofy kid instead of being.
Now that Bluters is back in the news, she's ready to talk. Boy. She simply concluded our conversation with the Gazette, where she didn't hold back regarding Caitlin's coaching reality Clark. And believe me when I say that some of the items she dropped are completely astounding, since it totally contradict all that individuals believe they be aware of Clark. As it happens, being the coach for the largest college basketball team, Superstar caused issues that no one outside had any idea about. Bluter arranged these two enormous challenges she had to overcome while serving as Clark's coach. Additionally, both of them will completely blow your head. Various reasons. That initial challenge arose in the early years of Clark's Iowa, is located in the center of Colorado. Do you recall the complete catastrophe? Complete lockdown mode? Empty arenas? Everyone was trapped in seclusion. Bluter described how extremely challenging it was attempting to produce any type of authentic relationships at that time, because everyone was so isolated from one another. Additionally, one of the main issues was genuinely persuading Clark to act as a true leader. This section is entirely wild.
Like, come on now, let's be serious. The person who got the best access to Clark during these developmental college years was Lisa Bluter, her Iowa head coach. Bluter retired from coaching after Clark's senior year in 2024, and her longtime assistant Jan Jensen took over the program, and Jan Jensen is doing a hell of a job as well. While Bluter has been seen at Iowa games and is still a part of the Midwest women's basketball scene, she occasionally does color commentary on the Big Ten Network. She has certainly been out of the spotlight more than she was as a head coach, especially during Clark's 4-year tenure.
Hold on. What? Caitlin Clark found it difficult to be a leader. We are discussing the same thing. We've seen Caitlin Clark lead teams to success on their own through unwavering resolve. Yes, that Caitlin Clark, exactly. Considering what Bluter revealed, Clark was so used to managing everything on my own that learning how to be a true leader who genuinely had faith in and revealed that she saw the best in her teammates had to evolve throughout time. She had to actively pursue it. Bluter also made certain to emphasize that she definitely finally become proficient in it, exceptionally well, but it certainly wasn't something that appeared overnight. Of course, it was a real trip. To be honest, this is a huge surprise, since everyone has always believed that Clark has leadership qualities from birth, passing through her veins, given that being a leader was as natural as breathing for her. That's not even close, it seems, to the reality. She was really amazing, talented individual who had to purposefully increase the skills required to manage a group of people, which, when you consider it, it's actually even more remarkable, since it demonstrates that she might acknowledge her areas for improvement and work till you reach that weakness, turned into one of her best qualities.
At one point in their discussion, Bluter was asked, what was the hardest part about coaching Clark? And she said two aspects, really. First, during the panoramic, I ain't trying to say certain words, YouTube be tripping. There was nobody in the stands. It was hard to build relationships because of the isolation. To get her to become a good leader, it took time because she was so used to doing everything on her own, but she learned it, and she learned it really well. Second, at the end of her career, there was so much noise and all the people that wanted a piece of her. I'm amazed at how she handled it. She didn't get a big head. She was still a goofy kid instead of becoming a prima donna. And here she said, Bluter has expressed in the past that it took Clark some time to warm up to her Hawkeye teammates as a freshman before blossoming into a great leader. And her stance on Clark being able to block out all the noise that came during her upperclassmen years also makes sense. Several of Clark's teammates with the Indiana Fever have spoken about her goofy side, which Bluter also alluded to. It's awesome to hear that Clark has managed to...
Imagine what Bluter is actually describing. You've obtained someone with such extraordinary talent that she is capable of controlling entire games without requiring a lot of assistance from others. She doesn't need a lot of assistance from allies to rule at lower levels of competition. However, you then toss her into a university where everyone's path more gifted, and suddenly just being dominant on your own won't cut it. No longer. You must now make everyone around you more effectively. You must truly depend on them. You must raise them up. For an individual who has been by far the greatest player on a single team throughout childhood, that's an enormous change in perspective. The whole COVID, the circumstances, made things 10 times worse, more difficult. When you are unable to establish typical connections alongside your teammates, as everyone's maintaining a safe distance and keeping everything closed down, how do you establish the confidence and link that is necessary for true leadership? Clark had to deal with everything during the worst possible circumstances. Additionally, according to what Bluter claims, that she successfully broke the code. However, it took time and careful endeavor. The second enormous obstacle, Bluter, was mentioned at the opposite end of Clark's college travel. When she reached her senior year, the amount of mayhem that surrounded her was essentially crazy. Everyone desired Caitlin Clark's work. Media seeking interviews, businesses seeking sponsorship agreements, incessant solicitations for appearances, enthusiastic fans, individuals despising her. The spotlight never ceased to burn. According to Bluter, she was amazed at how Clark handled all of that insanity without creating an enormous ego. She didn't change. Foolish child, rather than becoming some untouchable celebrity. This is enormous, since everyone has witnessed the effects of fame. To a young sportsman, we've seen a lot of talented athletes receive so much attention that they really embrace their own legend. They become uncoachable. They develop these massive egos. They begin to behave as though they are more significant compared to the team or even the sport. Clark apparently, it never even approached that attitude. Additionally, according to Bluter's perspective, that's truly amazing. Taking into account the situation she was in, just consider the degree of fame. That final year, Clark made it. She was appearing on magazine covers. She had advertisements that run around the country. Each and every one game was packaged. She was TV ratings that are collapsing. She turned into the greatest representation of women's college basketball, and, in particular, women's sports overall. That is unquestionably absurd level of pressure and spotlight for a 22-year-old control. The majority of individuals would either totally collapse under that intensity or allow their skulls to swell. Unbelievable. Clark was able to dodge both tracks. Blutter also took a seat with USA Today, where she delved even farther into these subjects, as well as some of her comments. There are even more eyes opening. She talked about how she and Clark would SMS each other to chat while playing games, through the way things were evolving for Iowa. That's a really interesting detail, since it demonstrates that their relationship persisted. When Clark became a professional, Blutter isn't only a former coach. She is someone Clark continues to rely on and maintain contact with. When they inquired about Clark's handled all the media attention and animosity that comes with fame, Blutter stated that they worked very hard at Iowa into avoiding distractions and maintaining laser-like focus. That mental clearly, the strategy is working for Clark, is now a WNBA player. Because lets Clark confront the hate and prejudice. College experience was unquestionably nothing like what she's dealing with as an expert. The nasty hits, the rough play, the remarks made by other players and their families, the assaults by the media. It's been really brutal. However, Clark has handled everything with amazing elegance. Blutter noted that truly strikes a new note. When Caitlin's, she is illuminated with light, which illuminates everyone, us. She was describing how Clark's accomplishments uplifted Iowa as a whole women's basketball and the program everywhere. She also pursued individuals who attempted to downplay Clark's achievements rather than rejoicing. Clearly, this was directed at those like the Washington Mystic, Sheila Johnson co-owner, who succeeded Clark as chosen as the Time Athlete of the Year. Blutter referred to that type of criticism as absurd and stated that people ought to be encouraging Clark rather than attempting to destroy her while she is rising. Every sport for women. In fact, she attributed Billie Jean to Clark's Impact King, which is huge prey. Billie Jean King actually changed the state of women's sports via her battling for equality and that renowned a match between the sexes. In order for Bluter to, in the same conversation, bring up Clark, demonstrates how enormous she believes Clark has had an impact. The mentoring Bluter's method is also quite revealing. She clarified that Clark is extremely goal-oriented, and if she thought something would be beneficial to the team's victory, she was totally on board. That really ruins another narrative individuals share about Clark, which she is self-centered or solely concerned with. She padded her own numbers. As stated by someone who served as her coach for 4 years in a row, that's finished absurdity. Clark was focused on the team, success above all else. Blutter awarded Clark's parents significant credit as well for maintaining her modesty. That's actually crucial, as we don't spend enough time discussing the importance of family in ensuring that young athletes remain focused and anchored. The parents of Clark obviously did a fantastic job of not allowing all the fame to alter who their daughter was. She remained loyal to herself, despite the fact that everything around her went utterly insane. Among the most interesting aspects of what Bluter said is when she talked about cutting out noise from outside. Clearly, That was a portion of her coaching methodology, Clark. There were a lot of things attempting to attract Clark's interest. Media sponsors, supporters, detractors, and Blutter's function was to assist her in shutting out all that mayhem and remain focused on basketball. The ability of Clark to perform at such a high level while taking care of all those distractions demonstrates both her amazing mental strength and the quality of Blutter's coaching her. Blutter added that maintaining Clark truly concentrated on their objectives. Wasn't that challenging? Because Clark was so driven by nature. They were attempting to return to the last four and win a national title. Clearly, they failed to do that ultimate goal. But they were extremely close. Clark led Iowa to successive national championship games, which are an incredible accomplishment that earns occasionally overlooked because they couldn't prevail in the last game. What Bluter selected is also intriguing. Not to mention, she didn't mention any severe issues with attitude or behavior problems with Clark. She wasn't painted as someone who was challenging to mentor or excessively demanding or dramatic. The challenges she discussed were beneficial. Clark developed his leadership skills and controlling the chaos outside, not coping with Clark's awful coworker or a nightmare. This is crucial since there have been this tale is circulating in some locations where Clark is troublesome or that she conflicts with her teammates or that she is self-centered. What is Blutter shared really undermines that story. She characterized Clark as a foolish child who maintained humility in spite of extraordinary notoriety, who evolved into an exceptional leader who was completely devoted to the success of the squad. That's the complete opposite of the challenging some people wish to make prima donna out to be. The barrier to co-isolation is particularly intriguing since it aids elucidate Clark's early development. The pandemic lasted for 2 years. It implies that she lost out on a lot of the typical team-building activities that assist athletes in developing their leadership skills. Everything seemed odd and disjointed, terribly uncomfortable that she was able to push through that and continue to develop into an amazing leader by her junior and senior years are fantastic. Flexibility. Blutter's observation regarding Clark's lack of ego development is furthermore crucial when you consider what is currently taking place in the WNBA. Clark stated that she aspires to be the number 1 player in the global rankings. She's dominating the United Cup. She's obtaining a large endorsement contract. But as far as we can tell, she's still that same practical, sturdy roofing person she was while attending college. That type of uniformity in personality throughout various degrees of success and fame are very uncommon. The connection between Bluter, additionally, Clark appears to be very sincere and unique. The fact that they continue to texting while playing a game demonstrates a relationship it extends far beyond coach and participant. Clearly, Bluter is really concerned regarding Clark's achievements and wishes to remain engaged even though she's finished mentoring. That mentorship connection will most likely benefit Clark for a long time while she completes her professional profession. What Blutter disclosed regarding the battle to assist Clark in becoming additionally, the leader explains why Clark has proven adept at creating colleagues. Superior in the WNBA. That's what she had to consciously grow in college. It indicates that she developed particular skills and methods for improving the people all around her. She wasn't merely casual skill. She developed leadership as in real ability. The information regarding blocking distractions are also linked to what Clark's professional career is showing us. She is currently managing much more chaos than in college she did. Increased tension in the media, greater scrutiny, more endorsement deals, more animosity. But she's employing the same Bluter gave her a mental framework. Ignore the sounds and remain tunnel-visioned. Concentrate on what truly matters. That hardness of mind is a significant factor in why she has been so prosperous. Bluder's contrast between Billie Jean King was impacted by Clark. Additionally, it's something to consider. Billie Jean King revolutionized women's sports for all time thanks to her advocacy and her brilliance. She fought for parity, compensation, respect, and acknowledgement. Clark is acting in a same manner simply by being amazing and making people pay focus on women's basketball. She's creating those who never gave a damn about women's sports are genuinely observed. She's changing perspectives and removing obstacles just by performing at a high level. The Bluders' criticism of those who attempted to downplay Clark's accomplishments is also noteworthy. Bluder might have stayed diplomatic or cautious, but she chose to be straightforward. It is absurd to attempt to destroy something incredibly beneficial to the sport. That's a coach defending her former player and revealing the jealousy and pettiness that Clark has been the target of some sections of the WNBA organization. Lisa Bluer just provided us with the most accurate image of Caitlin Clark that we have ever seen. Additionally, it makes her achievements even more astounding. She wasn't perfect from birth. She developed herself, become a leader, and a champion via commitment and mental resilience. If these discoveries were altered, click the like button to share how you see Clark. Then sign up, since there's a lot more to learn more about this entire circumstance.